3, 2, 1. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we go. Game on for episode 1 of Full Out. So how you been?
Pretty good. It's a little different making a move. Things are, when you're used to being in the gym as often as I was, and now I'm not in the gym at all. It's a little different.
Yeah, I believe it. What have you been doing to keep yourself busy?
Job searching.
Okay.
Lots of job searching. Getting the house together. My husband had some stuff out here, but not the 90% of the house wasn't out here yet. So,
okay,
put stuff in new spots. Trying to decide how we want to decorate.
Yeah, understandable. Have things been going okay for him out there otherwise? And did the move go okay overall?
It did. Thank you very much. Yeah. So far so good. He's really enjoyed it out here. Working from home, of course, due to COVID, and he really likes that. I don't think I could do that. I wouldn't mind working, maybe working from home once or twice a week would be okay, but I just got to be around people. I got to be out there doing stuff, and so it's going to be different. Yeah, we'll see, but so far so good.
Yeah, I would be surprised, I guess, if you don't end up back in some sort of gym in the next year or two.
I will be shocked. Already? Yeah. I don't know. I thought about getting, my judging certifications out here. So that way I'm still involved, but I'm kind of involved at my discretion when I want to be, and still get that fix a little bit of being around the sport. So we'll see. Maybe high school certifications as well as All-Star. I did run across Indiana Elite Cheer is out here. So I drive by the building actually quite often. And of course, I'm sure I'll stop in just to check it out. I gotta see what's out here. So yeah, kind of keeping my eye on when that's going to open so I can at least stop by and say hi.
Yeah, sounds good. You've been keeping in touch with anybody else out here as far as the gym goes?
A little bit. Alyssa Gilbert, who has taken over as head coach and director of the Wildcats program out at Power and Grace Gymnastics. She's going through a rough time right now as far as trying to get back in the gym, as are all the programs, trying to get back in with COVID. And, I know there's that concern of how many kids is she going to have for her first season as a head coach. Getting kids in for tryouts right now in small groups. So I've talked to her a little bit, not a whole lot. But, I'm still here for questions that she might have, especially like with the U.S. All-Star Federation and getting things set up with them, with the new athletes that she'll have for this next season. So kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with them and when they're going to actually get to start being in the gym. And whether or not there's going to be a program. Who knows how quickly they'll allow people to stunt, know?
Yeah.
With the social distancing.
Completely different dynamic this season versus any other year in the past. So
yeah, it is.
Ended up putting a quick stop to your last season with them. I know it was a little bit bittersweet. I'm sure it would have been nice to been able to be there and get together and all that before you moved.
Yeah, it sure would have been. It's definitely it was a much different ending than I expected. Especially with my husband having moved out here to Indiana in August, and me wanting to stay home to have that final season after 30 years of coaching and having the Wildcat program for almost 20. It's like you can't not have a final season, and be able to celebrate that final season. And unfortunately, due to COVID, as you said, it wasn't exactly the ending we were hoping for.
Right.
Like, the super cool thing is technology these days, being able to at least stay in contact with folks through social media and the different opportunities that we have to be able to do that in many other ways. So thank goodness for that. I can't imagine not being able to say bye to folks in some way, shape, or form other than calling all the kids, and calling all the families to say goodbye. So I'm grateful for that, at least.
Yeah. I guess maybe before we get too far down here, maybe go ahead and give all the listeners out there an overview of your background. And, we've kind of jumped into things here a little bit, assuming they know, but go ahead and run through that quick.
Well, sure. Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of coaching about 30 years now. I've been able to coach in quite a few different states in the Midwest. I've coached, everything from park and rec to coaching, for gymnastics gyms, to coaching for dance studios, coaching for junior highs, high schools, colleges, as well as having my own all-star program. So very grateful for all the years of experience I've had. I started out as a dancer and cheerleader and gymnast myself out in Billings, Montana. And from there, I started doing a little coaching on all three fronts, so dance, cheer, and gymnastics. And it's all just kind of carried over into eventually moving into the All-Star program and starting the Wildcats out of the Midwest Dance Center there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And eventually, after being there for about, I guess I was there for maybe 9 or 10 years. And then we moved over to Power and Grace Gymnastics. So very grateful for all the help that I got from the owners at Midwest Dance Center, as well as the owners over at Power and Grace. In the meantime, through all of that, I was blessed to coach for a couple of different junior highs, and then a high school with Lincoln High School there in Sioux Falls. And at that time, I was just coaching a sideline program and enjoyed it. The kids were always trying to get me to start a competitive program. So the last year that I was there, last year I was there, we started doing a little bit of stunt groups and competing those. Not very much. We had just kind of started. And then I chose to step down, and I got offered a position of starting an all-star program with Midwest Dance Center. And so I took that position. And then throughout the course of things, my good buddy Dan Haybeck, who I was blessed to have on my open team. I had a collegiate open team with Midwest Dance Center, the Big Cats, so 18 and over. And I got to meet Dan and many other folks from all over Sioux Falls and the surrounding areas. Had a lot of kids that came in from South Dakota State University, Dan being one, and kids coming in from different schools as well. Those kids that came from other great programs such as Dakota Spirit, that those kids had aged out. They couldn't cheer at an all-star level with Dakota Spirit or with any of the other local gyms in town, being over the age of 18. So once they graduated, they were too old. They were 19 and up. We decided to start the Big Cats. And so we had that for a little while, and that we started out just by doing some exhibitioning. The kids decided that they wanted to start competing. I think that some of those folks figured out that mom and dad pay a lot of money for competitive cheerleading that they hadn't been paying themselves when they're in high school and younger. So it kind of dwindled a little bit there for a bit, and then would come back for a year or two, and then it dwindled, and then it would come back again. And then I had the privilege of coaching with my buddy Dan. When he got done, you got done, cheering not only SDSU and Big Cats, but also out at the U of M. You getting the start over at SDSU to be the head coach out of that program, and of course bringing me in to start the all-girl team. So greatly enjoyed that. Coaching at that collegiate level is fantastic and really, really enjoyed it. But, it's definitely, you got to have that administration support behind you in order to make the most of it. I had the kids support, but, it was still up in there with the administration a little bit. And then after that, stepping down from there, you and I started out at Lincoln High School there for a couple years again with their competitive program. And, you becoming a dad to number 3, we decided
Yep.
we're ready to step down from that. So just finished my last couple years as the head coach and director for Power and Grace Wildcats. And so now that I've moved out to Indianapolis, here I am, not coaching at all, which, like I said, is kind of weird. But after 30 years, I think I was ready to maybe do some traveling or something. I don't know, have some nights free.
Yeah, take a step back.
Great. Very much so.
Deep breath.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It'll be different.
So, yeah, for sure. So with all that experience, I know one topic that, as I was going through and collecting topic ideas, that a lot of people wanted to hear about was dynamics of working with parents. So you've got an experience on collegiate, high school, junior high, and in the all-star realm. Are there any big thoughts that you have? Is there any big differences from one versus the other that you had experience with?
For the most part, and I will say this, parents can be the toughest challenge with being a coach in any sport, right? Of course, there are many parents out there that tend to think that their athlete, is the best athlete on the team, and that their athlete deserves more than what the coach has given them, and that can be extremely tough to try to maneuver around. And other times, parents can be the best thing about your program. Those supportive parents that let you do your job, and they're there for you with whatever you need. They partner with you on making sure that your kid or their kid is doing what they should be doing, and that's not only within the sport, but that's outside the sport too. Are they well-rounded people? Are they well-rounded people? School, not getting in trouble in school. Are they staying on top of their studies and their grades? Are they taking the time? Are they managing their time appropriately between the sport and between their schoolwork and their family? You got to work together with the parents to be able to do that. I have been pretty fortunate that over the 30 years of coaching, I really have only had a handful of parents that have been wave makers, that have really just bucked what I've said or what I wanted to do, whether it's been on the school side or it's been on the all-star side. When it comes to the school side, if you have a supportive administration, that's going to back you up and they believe in your thoughts and how you're running your program, and they support the way you're running your program, then those people can be the best friend that you can have in your corner. When it comes to parents that are not happy with maybe their child was on the team the year before and didn't make the team the next year, based on scores, or it could even be based on teachers' reports on those students, and parents don't always agree and understand why their child didn't make the team, and
yeah.
Sometimes that can be really difficult. I do find myself reaching out to those folks and trying to meet with them in person. It's text, email, as we all know, in this world of technology, text and email can very much be misinterpreted. based on the tone and the context in which you meant what you said, and vice versa, right? What they're saying back to me, I may take in a completely different context than they meant it. So I definitely find it best to meet with those people. And 9 times out of 10, the conflict can be resolved by meeting with those people and allowing them to speak and listening to what they have to say, and them giving me the time to speak and listening to what I have to say. I can't say that every time that happens that parents just walk out of there completely understanding and completely supporting the decision that was made in regards to their child, right?
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, it does help. The main thing with parents is you do need to give them the opportunity to speak their piece. You need to let them talk and listen to them. You may not agree with everything that they have to say, but the main thing is they want to be heard. So let them speak. When it comes to college athletes, right now we're no longer dealing with the parents as much as we're dealing with the athlete themselves. But even in college, as you know, sometimes the parents do make a sneaky appearance in there and have a lot to say in regards to what they don't agree with as well. And that can also be difficult. But usually when it comes to a college athlete and even a high school athlete, I usually try to have that conversation with the athlete themselves and get the athlete on board with the reasons of why maybe things aren't the way that they were hoping they'd be and the way that moms and dads are hoping that it would have happened, and try to get that athlete under the understanding and get them on board so that they can help me talk to their parent.
Understandable. The other thing I would say is having the conversation up front at the beginning of each school year and setting the expectation of with your athletes of that if they have a problem with you, to come and talk with you first rather than running to their parents and not bringing it up to you. It could be something that it was misinterpreted from the beginning and then it gets blown out of proportion too.
100%. He said, she said at that point. And yeah, you were completely right. I think it's always best to have that conversation at a parent meeting. Or, the last couple of years with Power and Grace, we actually had a parent code of conduct. We had an issue over the past couple of years. So it was probably about 3 years ago, because I think we had that code of conduct for 2 years. About 3 years ago, we just had a parent that was just unhappy. She was just unhappy. And unfortunately, very vocal. She was very vocal at everywhere. She was vocal, at practices, sitting out in the viewing area at the gym. She was vocal at competitions, and she'd be vocal about our program in a negative way, vocal about the coaches in a negative way, vocal about some of the athletes on the team in a negative way. Some of the parents I have made negative, nasty comments about some of the other teams, or some of the other teams' parents, or some of the other teams' kids, or, and that's not okay. That's not okay. No matter where you are, if it has anything to do with this sport, you are representing your child. You are representing yourself. You are representing your family. You are representing your cheer family. You are representing your gym or your school or your studio. You're representing your program. And anything that you do and say could have a negative or a positive impact on everybody involved. And so we ended up having to write up a parent code of conduct. And not be afraid to say, no matter how much we love your child and we respect your child, and your child's wonderful with this program, very talented, gets along well with the others, if the parent is a bad apple in the bunch, and it's going to cause unrest for other parents and other people in your program, then you have to cut your losses. And what I mean by that is at that point, you may have to ask that parent and child to leave your program. And that can be hard. That can be very hard, especially if you just have a great relationship with that child, with that athlete. And I shouldn't even say child. I mean, it could be an 18-year-old. It could be a college kid, and you got a great rapport with that kid, that athlete, and they have a great rapport with everybody on their team. But mom or dad is ruining it, so.
Would you consider that to be kind of a last resort type thing, though?
Absolutely, 100%. There are many conversations that happen before that time between like myself and that parent. Many conversations of, this is what's happening and this is why it's not okay. And this is what we need to see going forward. Even conversations of, why are you unhappy? What are you expecting? What would you like to see? What are you hoping to see different that is going to ease your concerns? Many of those types of conversations have happened, but when you start to have other families in the program that are pulling you aside, telling you about situation that they may have had with that person, and you just can't. You can't let one person bring your program down, and unfortunately, you're better off without them at that point.
Did you ever look into or consider suspending or getting rid of that parent, preventing them from being able to come? I know that creates a lot more headache for being able to get kids to and from practice and events and that type of thing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But would probably be another option anyway.
We sure could, but I can't prevent them from coming to competitions.
True.
Right? I can prevent them from coming into the gym during practice. I can prevent them from coming to any of the, the team-related events. I could say you're not welcome, prevent them in that way, but I can't prevent them from coming to competitions. And the problem with that is when they do come to competitions, they can still rock the boat at the competition.
May even more so.
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, other folks from other gyms, folks from our gym, folks from other schools, if it's a high school parent, they know that parent is associated with your program, and so that still negatively impacts your program. Now, if that parent has been asked to leave your program and they choose to badmouth your program or badmouth you as a person or as a coach, that's their prerogative at that point, but it's not within my program anymore. You know what I mean? And others that know that person could be cancerous to a program and was asked to leave, then, folks are more so on the side of, why did they ask you to leave? You know what I mean? Versus, how dare they ask you to leave? So, I don't know. You definitely go, as you said, go through different steps. The last resort is kicking somebody out of the program completely. That is by far our last resort. But sometimes it comes to that. I would hope it wouldn't. And as I said, over the 30 years of coaching through the different channels that I've been able to coach, I've had a handful of parents that I've had problems with. And in complete honesty, I think I've probably only had to dismiss maybe one or two from the program. One I think was school related and one was All-Star related.
So if you had maybe a top 2 points to give to like a new coach coming out and dealing with parents, how would you summarize your top 2 points then?
I would say one point would be definitely give them respect and expect respect in return, right? So give them that respect, let them speak, but don't bow down either. Do you know what I mean? You still need to stand your ground. You still need to stand up for the values of your program, but give them the opportunity to explain what's bothering them, because it may be complete miscommunication. Maybe it was an email that came out and they misread a sentence in that email, and that set them off and spinning in a complete different direction than what that was meant to be. So, always give them the opportunity to explain to you what they're upset with, and make sure that you listen and that you come back and you work together to figure out what needs to be done. That would be top one, communication with the parents, but also standing your ground when it comes to the values of your program. Number two, when it comes to the athletes, don't make a parent feel that their athlete is more talented than they are, but always give that athlete the props they deserve to that parent, right? Tell the parent what you feel that athlete is doing well. Tell them these are by far their strengths, and here's what I'd like to see them work on to make them even better. I think it's important for athletes to know how their kids are doing, and that's something that there were times that I was really good about communicating with that, and then there are other times I noticed, Beck, you haven't been communicating with the parents as much as you should be. Again, you need to let them know how their kids are doing. And when you have a huge program, you may not really have the opportunity to lay that out for everybody, but if you have the time and you can take the time to do that, I just think that's super important. And of course, I've always been a coach that has taken the time to get to know my kids. I am not the type of coach that I run it so much like a business that I may have to say, what's that kid's name again? Or ask somebody, hey, what's that kid? What team are they on? I've always had a smaller program. So I try to take the time to get to know a little bit about my kids outside of cheer. So I know how they're doing at home, what makes them tick, I don't necessarily say become their friend, but become their mentor, become somebody that they feel comfortable coming to with anything that they've got going on outside of the gym.
Yeah, like you said, it helps understand what makes them tick, and it helps you understand from a coaching standpoint how you can coach each person a little bit better. Absolutely. And be a little more effective. Everybody's
a little different, right? Susie, I might have to light a fire under her tush to get her going, whereas Kenzie over here, is built on praise, and everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yeah, I like to tell people the story, and when I tell my former coach about passing along the story, I know he gets a little upset, but I know when I was at Minnesota, I had more of a temper issue during if I'd missed something, and the coach the one day marched all the way across the gym floor in the middle of a nationals practice and proceeded to tell me that I single-handedly brought the routine down.
Right. So, yeah, that's just heartbreaking. That doesn't help.
Yeah, he knew that he could do it with me, though.
Yeah,
I never wanted to have it happen again, so for me, it worked.
Amen. So there's that lighting that fire under your butt, and
Yep.
sometimes tough love is it sometimes, but man, you really gotta learn those kids. You gotta know, is this gonna completely break this kid, or is this gonna make it like it did for you, where it was like, that sucks. I'm never gonna do that again because I don't like the way this makes me feel. So,
yeah, I definitely. And then I didn't really understand all of the dynamics of coaching everybody differently until I got into coaching more deeply, obviously, too. So, when we were at SDSU, you definitely learn the kids that you have to, I don't know if the right term is coddle, but you have to be a little bit more gentle with how you push them. And then there's some kids, like you said, that you just have to put your foot down and tell them to do it, and then they do it. Otherwise, if you try and be gentle with them, they're never going to do it because they keep pushing back on you.
Yep. Amen. So. Amen.
What would you say, changing the subject here a little bit, what would you say your craziest save you've ever seen in cheerleading was?
Oh, gosh. UPA. When we went to UPA with Big Cats, and that was when, it was more of a kind of a flyer saved herself.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Right? So, yes. So we had a 2.5 high pyramid going on, and one of our spotters was in the back, and I don't know if he was in the back or the front.
Yeah, he was. He was backing. Okay. I was fronting.
Yes, so he was in the back, and you were in the front, and one of our flyers, she usually, if she comes down out of that 2.5, she would always come forward. She'd always come forward if she came off. And it was the ending pyramid of the routine. We were all excited. We hit everything, and she ended up falling off, and she fell off the back. He had run around to the front to spirit with the crowd, woo, because it was the end of the routine, and she ended up falling off the back. So I guess she saved herself because kind of cat-like reflex landed on her feet. But that was one, and then an actual save. I don't know. We've had some baskets. That ended up going backwards, and just huge going backwards that people have had to run and save. I don't know if it was a matter of the front spot giving a little bit more oomph and throwing backwards. But yeah, I can't think of anything specific in competition or even in practice, but I know we've had many. Can you think of any that have happened in Big Cats or at state?
No, I guess the craziest one that I can think of myself was when Jenny and we were done at U of M. It was when we were doing tryouts for SDSU, and we went to throw our double up, and for some reason she went off kilter, and I ended up catching her ankles, and I'd stuck my one foot out and caught the back of her head with the top of my foot while I was holding on to her ankles, and she landed almost completely upside down. But I was still able to save it.
That's a scary but awesome save. We've definitely had some saves in the sense that pyramids have done exactly what they're supposed to do if they're going to fall to where they crumble, so everybody is safe versus somebody taking off and flying off in a different direction. But yeah, I'm sure there have been many over the years, but I can't think of any specific, not like the Jenny story, right?
Yeah, that one really sticks out to me. And it wasn't a big save like in a pyramid or anything like that, but it was one of those where your body kicks in. Your brain doesn't really know what it's doing. You just manage to get a hold of them and save them. So
that's a pretty dang good save there too. Anytime somebody's head's nearing the floor and you're able to prevent that from happening, that's an amazing save, right?
Yep, agreed. Keeping them off the floor is the important part.
Amen.
Is there anything else you wanted to try and cover this time around?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, not that I can think of. So
I'm sure this won't be the only time we'll have you on. At least hopefully not.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Sounds good. Well, here, let's do one more cheers, and we'll say thanks for coming out.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.